Hello and welcome back to my channel. Make sure you like and subscribe to my channel. Let's begin. Ichigo rose an eyebrow. "What are you doing?" he asked. Ichigo ignored the question, and continued in, very slowly. Ichigo frowned. "Fine. I'll take charge of this fight," he said, charging in, himself. Ichigo smiled and rose his sword over his torso. Ichigo tried to open up Ichigo's defensive with the sheath, but the redhead refused to allow access. Not losing any form of confidence, Ichigo swung down, with his Zanpakuto, which Ichigo easily deflected. "Too slow!" Ichigo shouted, swinging his sword down into Ichigo's shoulder. Ichigo winced, before twisting his body around, driving the sword out of his body. With little hesitation, Ichigo poked his sword straight at Ichigo, who had little time to avoid the strike. The huge Zanpakuto struck true, in the bald Shinigami's abdomen, and knocked him back, fresh blood pouring from the wound. Ichigo grunted, struggling to raise his stance again. "I'm surprised you can still fight, with that injury to your shoulder," he said, grinning. "You got guts, kid." Ichigo narrowed his eyes and spat on the ground beside him. "Abdominal injuries limit how much strength you can output. Also, they can affect stamina, speed, and pain tolerance," Ichigo said. "I just tore pretty much every muscle in your gut. You aren't going to last much longer." Ichigo laughed. "You think an injury like this can stop me?" he shouted. Ichigo shrugged. "I don't know. You're not pretty smart. Cocky, eh? Let me end that right now." Ichigo said, holding his blade out. "Extend, Hosokumaru." The spiritual particles radiating off of him burst out, leaving dust where he stood. Ichigo frowned. "A spear? Really?" Ichigo asked, stoically. Ichigo stood his ground, with a spear as long, if not longer, than he was tall, grinning. "Oi, don't judge a book by its cover," Ichigo responded. He then charged in, poking inward at Ichigo 3 times, which Ichigo effortlessly dodged, before fine steel on his 4th attempt. Ichigo was barely fazed. "How disappointing. I was expected something cool to happen, but all I got was this," Ichigo taunted. Ichigo grinned. "Split, Hosokumaru," he shouted, and the spear split apart. Ichigo's eyes widened, as a blade whipped around his shoulder, and cut his right arm open. The substitute growled, and swung his sword haphazardly, trying to create space. The tactic was a success, as Ichigo jumped back, and chuckled softly. "Not a spear, Ichigo. It's a sensetsuken. Get it straight," he taunted. Ichigo sighed, and wrapped the excess cloth at the butt of his blade around his wound. "I will break you in half," Ichigo whispered underneath his breath. He then turned his attention to Ichigo. "I really don't have time for this, so I'm afraid that this exhibition is going to have to end very soon." Ichigo dropped his grin. "What? Are you not enjoying yourself? This is a fantastic fight." "Not really. Fighting is dumb." "Then what are you doing here?" Ichigo narrowed his eyes. "Trying to kill you. You are the enemy, and thus, you are up for destruction." Ichigo frowned. "Punk. And to think I was actually beginning to like you," he said, twirling one of the segments of the Zanpakuto. Ichigo sighed, once more. "That will do," he said, to himself. "Let's go, Shinigami." Ichigo charged in, and swung twice, both blows aimed at the neck of the Shinigami. Ichigo easily deflected the blows, both whipping an attack in, which cut Ichigo's cheek open. The substitute, however, was completely unfazed, and continued to advance, confusing Ichigo. "I guess you just wanna die," he shouted, flicking his wrist, sending another attack out, this one connecting with Ichigo's chest. Ichigo laughed, before finding his eyes widening involuntarily. "Just as planned," Ichigo said, with the blade of Hosokumaru in his chest. Wrapping his arms around the wood, Ichigo could not pull out the blade out of Ichigo's chest, without letting go of his weapon. And that was simply not going to happen. Closing his eyes, Ichigo accepted the upward slash, that not cut his torso open, but shattered his weapon too. Chapter 13, Lament for the Aurochs. DMN it. Ganju shouted, "Where the hell am I?" He was currently running around the Siriidii, aimlessly, trying to get away from an opponent he did not want any part of. "Well, he did look pretty girly that I'm sure I could dash," he started to say, before Yumachika appeared in front of him, and cut him down his chest. "The way you run is so ugly," he said, smirking, "not only are you a coward, but you are hideous." "Yubstrd. Ganju shouted. Yumachika, as he planted his feet on the former royal's chest, and kicked off, leaping through the air, to land gracefully on his feet. Ganju, on the other hand, landed flat on his butt. "If this keeps up, this little invasion of yours won't last much long," Yumachika said. "Don't focus on the idiot. He's nothing but dead weight," Ichigo said, rounding the corner. Yumachika's eyes widened. "How? Did dash?" "Yes, I defeated your partner. He's bleeding out, by the way." Ichigo rolled his neck and smirked. "If he ever wakes up again, tell him that his healing ointment SCKS. Why, I dash," is all Yumachika had time to say, before finding a fist in his throat. He fell back, knocked out. "You ran away from this. Poor show, Ganju. Poor show. Shut up. Kenchan." "It's this way," a little girl, with bright pink hair, shouted, riding the shoulder of the massive captain. Kenpachi grunted. "I'm pretty DMN sure you're leading me in a friggin' circle," he argued. "No, I'm not. I'm sure that it's this way. Whatever. That I'm glad he didn't find us, that he might not be the brightest Shinigami here," Yuryu said, hiding with Orihime on a rooftop. Exhaling, the Quincy turned to his partner. "Now, if only we knew where to go," he said. "We could go to that tower, over there," Orihime responded. Yuryu blinked. "What tower?" he asked. "That big, white tower. The one near the top of the hill," she said, as a presence arrived next to her, preparing to strike. Yuryu wasted no time, swiftly moving over, to get Orihime out of the way of the attack, which put a sizable dent in the building's roof. The Hulk blinked, before grinning. "I missed," he mumbled. "Interesting, who are you?" Yuryu glared at him. "Who are we?" "What an idiotic question," the Quincy fired back. "Can you explain why you attacked a girl who wasn't even aware of your position?" The Shinigami laughed. "Never mind. I don't care who you are anyway. I'll just kill you too, and get this pointless crap over with." He drew his weapon again and swung it at the two, splitting them apart. Orihime was the first on the offensive, summoning Tsubaki. The hot-blooded spirit dashed at the Shinigami, who scoffed, and knocked him away, cleanly. "Tsubaki," she shouted. She scooped up the small fairy and cradled it in her small hands. Tsubaki coughed. "You idiot. Why would you use a weak attack like that?" he asked, before returning to Orihime's hairpins. The Shinigami laughed. "I have never seen an attack like that, but I was still able to deflect it away," he said, smugly. "That was definitely not an attack with killing intent." "Pathetic. Where the hell do you think you are, little girl? The amusement park? This is war." Orihime flinched, as the man began to aim his sword down on her, and blinked in confusion when nothing struck her. Instead, the Shinigami was knocked over her, with 5 arrows in his back. "Killing intent, eh?" Yuryu said, calmly, holding an ornate blue and white bow. "If you want killing intent so badly, then come get some. My bow is full of it." "Where are we going?" Ganju asked, walking a pace behind Ichigo. The redhead shrugged. "That big tower, near the hill, I suppose," he replied. Ganju rolled his eyes. "So, you know for a fact that this person is there?" "No. But, it's better than standing around, like idiots, and doing nothing." Whatever. This is stupid anyway. I can't believe that they left me, said a tired voice from in front of the duo. It came from a short male, with droopy eyes, and a meek build. Ichigo grinned. Kid, he said. The Shinigami looked up. Gut check, Ichigo said, moving his face into the midsection of the poor Shinigami, flooring him. He exhaled, and grabbed the dizzied victim by his collar. You. Where is Kuchiki Rukia held? Don't make me punch you again. Where is she at? Ichigo growled. This is pointless. There they are, another new voice, this one much more boisterous than the Shinigami in Ichigo's clutches, shouted. Let me at them. Kill them. Ichigo narrowed his eyes and drew his Zanpakuto. Back off, or I'll kill the brat, he said, tonelessly. The Shinigami squirmed weakly. Silence. Then, uproarious laughter from the new group. Go ahead. He's useless. Thanks for doing us a favor. Stupid 4th Division. Ichigo grimaced. So you're not even useful as a hostage, he said, casually tossing the boy away. Well, let's get this slaughter over. I don't have time to play with stupid thugs. Or, Ganju said, holding a large smoke bomb, you could be smart. He tossed the bomb into the middle of the group and watched it promptly exploded, sending the frenzied riot into a mass hysteria of coughing and gagging. Ichigo, without any reaction, shrugged. Or that, he said, flatly. Follow me, the discarded Shinigami from before said, holding a floor tile up. Not bothering to argue, Ichigo and Ganju followed him. A Quincy, the Shinigami shouted, slowly rising from the ground, I should crush you from doing that. He grabbed his Zanpakuto, and held it straight up. Instead, I'll rip you to shreds. Spread your wings, Sanzakigaresu. Crushing the blade underneath his palm, he sprouted countless flying blades, which danced around him. I am Ikanzaka Jirobo, 4th seat of the 7th Division. I was nicknamed Kamaitashi, for my mastery of ranged weapons. You better regret trying to fight me. Yuryu narrowed his eyes. Idiot, he said. Jirobo pointed at Yuryu, which sent his weapons flying toward the Quincy. Instead of making an attempt at dodging, Yuryu decided to end this quickly and shoot down the blades. All of the blades. Jirobo was stunned. Why you, how did you, he sputtered. Yuryu scoffed. Was that it, he asked, mockingly, that was pathetic. To think that you're the master of ranged weapons. Jirobo's eyes widened, in anger. Don't you think you won, you brat, he roared, summoning more blades. Yuryu chuckled. You still don't understand, the Quincy said, tonelessly, firing off another shot, this time piercing the left hand of the Shinigami. Jirobo looked at his shattered Zanpakuto, then back at the massive hole in his hand, then screamed, doubling over in pain. Orihime was shocked. I never knew Ishida-kun was this strong, she said, breathlessly. He had just completely disabled the Shinigami, without even breaking a sweat. He had just saved her, without a struggle. What did I do? I have to ask you this, Yuryu said, calmly walking toward Jirobo, are you regretting fighting me? This fight was a complete mismatch from the beginning. Jirobo felt his blood boil. Are you asking me if I regret this? He roared, as if he was offended, you'll be the ones regretting this. As he ranted, he turned toward Orihime, and prepared to strike, with his uninjured hand. Only to be interrupted by Yuryu. Are you trying to attack Inoue-san, because you can't defeat me? He asked, darkly, or are you trying to take her as a hostage? Readying his arrow, he came across another explanation. Thinking about it, you've only been targeting Inoue-san from the beginning. That explains your haughty attitude. You aren't strong. You're just a bully. For the first time, Jirobo could not muster anything to say. Yuryu smirked. Enough said. I'll put an end to this. Permanently. firing 2 arrows off, both of them puncturing the abdomen of the Shinigami, knocking him away. "Thank you, Ishida-kun," Orihime said, knocking Yuryu out of his post-victory stupor. The Quincy turned to her and flushed slightly. "Ah, it was nothing, Inoue-san. Just doing my duty," he said, nervously, but steadily. Inoue, in response, smiled. "So did he dead," she said. Yuryu shook his head. "No. I sealed the pressure points, which control his spiritual powers," he answered. "He'll live, but he'll never be a Shinigami again." Gathering himself, he turned toward the tower. "Let's go." With a nod, Orihime followed him. In 10 days, Ishida-kun became so strong. So did Sato-kun and Kurosaki-kun, she thought to herself, what was I doing during the same time? I don't feel stronger at all. Yamada Hanataro. Ichigo said, "By the 9, what an awful name." "What?" "It's not too bad," Hanataro said, meekly. "Trust me. I know a thing about bad names. And your name is awful." "Ichigo, stop being annoying," Ganju said. Ichigo glared at him. "If you ever call me by my given name again, I will gut you," he growled, darkly, "and that is not a threat. That is a promise." "What? You call me by my given name all the DMN time." Ganju argued. "You're not important. And you couldn't beat me, even if I was tied." "Why you?" "Excuse me." "Go away, dead weight," Ichigo said, not bothering to turn his direction. "Your presence is bumming me out. Be useless elsewhere." "Where exactly did you take us?" Ganju asked. "The sewer systems. They're rather complex, and can lead you nearly anywhere in the Siriidii. Effin' neato. Go away. Why did you invade the Siriidii anyway?" "To prevent regret." "Go away." "To whom?" "What are we playing?" 20 questions. "Go away." That is it, Kuchiki Rukia. Ichigo paused. "Well, you might not be useless after all." "Madare Mikaku." Renji said, sitting down, by a window, defeated by the invaders. He knew who did it. He knew that leaving him alive would bite the Siriidii in the butt. When the captain commander made no immediate moves to go after the substitute, he also knew that this was going to bite them in the butt. "DMN it," he said, grabbing Zabumaru. He looked around, then flipped on his shades, as he left. The redhead knew exactly where the substitute was going. He's not even going to draw a sword. What an ID-, an unseated member of the 11th Division said, before receiving a heavy straight, from Sato, sending him flying. The giant clenched his fists, and his right arm surged with energy. As the silent giant went to work, shredding through the combative division, as if they were cheese. "Fresh air. Thank God." Ganju shouted, taking a big breath of air, coming from underneath the sewer system. Ichigo poked his head out, and looked around. "Are we there yet?" he asked, dully. Hanataro shook his head. "This is as close I can lead you," he said, flatly. Ichigo climbed out of the hole and stretched. This is close enough," he said, before falling to a neutral state. Something didn't feel right. Someone was watching them. "Come out," he whispered. "You say something, Ichigo." Ganju said, before finding a fist in his face. Clutching at his face, the man started to sputter about. "What the hell was that for?" he shouted. Ichigo shot him a dark glare. "I already warned you that you shouldn't use my given name," he said, before facing the front. Of course, he would be here. "What are you doing here?" he said, flatly. The red-head vice-captain appeared, jumping from above. "I have work to attend to," Renji said, "and you're becoming a major nuisance. You can avoid this, by leaving us alone." Renji scoffed. "Avoid what?" "Death," Ichigo said, drawing his sword, "but you don't look too smart, so I guess that this is a foregone conclusion, Renji smirked, as he drew his sword. I believe you don't know my name yet. I don't need to know the name of a corpse. Funny. Then I don't know why I bothered to learn your name, Ichigo. The orange-haired Shinigami's eyebrow twitched, in anger. I'm getting rather annoyed with strangers using my DMN given name, he said. I'll just use you as an example. Renji's smirk evolved into a grin, as he charged Ichigo, sword drawn. Steel met steel, and the two Zanpakutos met in the clash produced sparks. Come on, Ichigo. Show me how you're going to save Rukia. Renji shouted. Ichigo glared at the redhead. You can't draw me out, idiot, he whispered, before slowly sidestepping, trying to figure out what his opponent was doing. Unsure of yourself, he said, why not use that predictable whip sword thing, again? Really worked out well for you the first time. Renji growled as he flash-stepped in front of Ichigo, and swung down, scarring the ground. The substitute spun out of the way of the strike, and tried to follow up, grabbing his cleaver with his left hand, swinging it upward, haphazardly. Renji jumped out of the way. Not good enough, the vice-captain shouted, charging in. Ichigo rolled his eyes, and caught Renji's blade in the curve of his own. With a flick of his wrist, Renji was sked towards him, and Ichigo delivered a sharp knee to the face. Renji stumbled back, grimacing. Boring. Predictable. That seems to make up your fighting style, Ichigo said. That's not going to be good for you. Renji's eyes narrowed, into a fierce glare. How do you expect to save Rukia? He asked. Your swordsmanship is awful and undisciplined. Ichigo paused, before shrugging his shoulders. I had a crappy teacher, he responded. Did you at least learn Kido? No, I didn't. Have you at least achieved Bankai? Ichigo rose an eyebrow. Ban what? How did you ever figure out your Zanpakuto's name? Renji facepalmed. How dare you say that you are going to save Rukia, coming here completely unprepared for what's coming up? How dare you think that you just waltz in here? I won't even allow you to give her false hope. Ichigo rolled his eyes. You're getting on my nerves, Ichigo said. I don't have to prove anything to you. Now step aside. Your mind is clearly not into this fight. Silence. Renji roared, I'll rid the world of you. Roar, Zabumaru. The whip blade emerged, and the redhead stared down Ichigo, who smirked. Renji rose an eyebrow. What the hell are you smiling about? He asked, voice dripping with hostile emotions. Ichigo shrugged but did not offer any answer. Renji scoffed, idiot. With a quick flick of his wrist, Zabumaru stretched, hurling itself at Ichigo, who prepared to grab it, like their first fight. Unlike last time, Renji retracted himself, and not the blade, pulling himself closer to the substitute. Ichigo received a hard punch, to his chin, staggering a bit. Well, that's new, he said, grimacing. Renji, giving his enemy no time to recover, shot out his weapon again, which Ichigo deflected. Deciding that it was the proper time for him to get offensive, he charged in. Renji smirked. Forgetting something, he shouted, as he retracted his blade. Ichigo barely had time to react, and he caught the sharp hooks in his shoulder. He shouted, stumbling to his knees, back to Renji. With absolutely no time waste, Renji shot off another attack, this one carrying Ichigo into a wall. Kurosaki-san. Ichigo. Ganju and Hanataro synchronized, as the wall crumbled around Ichigo. The orange-haired Shinigami rose from the rubble, with a fresh wound on his back, and the top of his head, both leaking blood. Nice one, he said, wiping the blood from his eyes. Now, let's get dangerous. With a flash step, Ichigo appeared in front of Renji, sword high, ready to strike. Renji, calm, whipped Zabumaru at the substitute, which Ichigo knocked away. However, the whip flailed about, and one of the hooks caught Ichigo's left shoulder, ripping it open. Ichigo grunted, in irritation, slashing downward, which Renji caught with the retracting Zanpakuto. With another move, Zabumaru was sent flying at the wounded Ichigo, who moved out of the way. Again, he was caught by Zabumaru protruding hooks, and drag in, which Renji rewarded him with a punch, flooring him. Seeking the chance to end this, Renji lifted Zabumaru high, and slammed it down, seeking the finishing blow. However, Ichigo blocked the strike, with the heel of his foot. Renji's eyes widened. "Not this time," Ichigo said, darkly, before rolling back, taking Renji with him, and delivering a quick flurry of punches to the midsection, before sending him airborne with a heavy right. Ichigo rolled back to his feet, and jumped at the vice-captain, sword ready. Renji, however, recovered before he could strike, and deflected the attack. "Nice try, rookie," Renji said, calmly, before firing off another attack, sending Ichigo flying into the ground. "I don't know why you bothered," he said, menacingly, "you can't possibly believe that you have a chance. I'm only a vice-captain. My captain is a lot stronger than I am. And you think that you, who doesn't even know the name of your Zanpakuto, could ever challenge us? You think that you could ever save Rukia with your skill? I have been training for years. You've only been a Shinigami for a couple of months. You had no shot in this fight." Ichigo, wearing a white skeletal mask, with 3 red slash marks, felt weightless. "I must be inside the world my Zanpakuto lives in," he said, voice wavering. Indeed, his Zanpakuto appeared, and he looked rather frustrated. "Do you see how your opponent and his Zanpakuto fight together?" he said, gruffly, in perfect unison. "Both sides understand each fully. There is no conflict between the two. But you and I clash. And all you carry is an empty, hollow blade. You possibly can't save Rukia like this." Ichigo's mask shattered, and he smirked. "Of course, I can," Ichigo said. His Zanpakuto frowned. "I don't need a lecture from a sword, on how I'm supposed to fight. You are nothing but a sword, and you will give me your power. So you continue to fight this," the Zanpakuto spirit said, furiously, "how pathetic. And to think you call yourself a Shinigami." "I'll end this," Renji said, holding Zabumaru high, "your life as Shinigami ends tonight." "I'm not a Shinigami," Ichigo said, weakly, but threateningly. Renji growled. "Time to die." Renji shouted, swinging downward, at the substitute. However, Ichigo caught the blade with his own, as his body surged with energy. Renji's eyes widened. "You'll be the one to die, tonight, Shinigami," Ichigo shouted. "I'll send Rukia your regards." His Zanpakuto began to glow a light blue color. "Begone! Getsuga Tensho!" A massive blast of light erupted from his blade, engulfing Renji in a light, which not only shred his Zanpakuto, but his body too. The fiery vice-captain paused, blood pouring from his wounds, before falling forward. Ichigo climbed out of the rubble, and stared down his former opponent. "Resilient, eh?" Ichigo breathed. Renji slowly turned his head toward the victor. "Ichigo, you can save her," he said. Ichigo rose an eyebrow. "You have to save her, you have to." Ichigo stared at the groveling man, eyebrows furrowed. "No matter how much I trained, Captain Kuchiki always defeated me. No matter how hard I tried. When Rukia was sentenced to death, and he wouldn't fight against the ruling, I knew there was nothing I could have done to stop it. That I'm absolutely pathetic, the worst. But, you have to, Kurosaki Ichigo. That I don't care about shame, that I don't care about pride, all I care about is that Rukia makes it out alive." Ichigo scoffed. "Have some DMN dignity," he said. "I'm not saving Rukia out of the goodness of my DMN heart. I'm saving her because it's my DMN fault she's caught up in this bullshit. If it wasn't for the fact that you're crying at my feet, like a beach, you would have been a memory." With a quick turn, he started to walk away from the wounded vice-captain. "But I will save her. And instead of crying, you better help Abarai." Renji's eyes widened before his look softened. "Rukia, you told him about me, you idiot." As another building collapsed, Ichigo's Zanpakuto spirit sighed, in frustration. Why does he keep doing this to himself, he said, sadly. Chapter 14, Raining Blood. Why won't defend yourself, an irritated, younger Kurosaki Ichigo asked. Sato shrugged. I promised my abuelo that I would never fight for selfish reasons again, the silent giant answered. Ichigo narrowed his eyes. And apparently defending yourself is selfish? Sato nodded again. Ichigo sighed. That logic is stupid. Wiping the blood off his fist, he helped Sato up. We need to get you to a medic. It's on the house, by the way. It seems that I'm going to have to fight, now a man, with goatee of stubble, long wavy brown hair, said, what a drag. I was hoping to stay here and drink sake with my dear Nanao-chan. The bespectacled woman in the room with him sighed. Then who's going to do your work, she said, sharply. I'll worry about it tomorrow, he said, hoping that was an acceptable answer. You said that yesterday. Then I'll keep putting it off until I have the time for it. Nanao glared at him. You have all the time in the world to do it. But who's going to fight the invader? I'll do it. Even though he made it this far, he doesn't seem too powerful. I can eliminate him. A soft fluttering was heard, and a hell butterfly landed in front of the man. Emergency. Emergency, the butterfly announced, a message, for Captain Kairaku no Jiro Sozosa Shunsui of the 8th Division, and second son of the Kairaku family. Peacetime precautions have been lifted. All Shinigami, including captains and their vice-captains, are authorized to carry their Zanpakutos on their person. Who made this message? Suifeng. Message approved via the signature of Captain Suifeng of the 2nd Division, commander of the Stealth Force, Corps commander of the Executive Militia, and 9th head of the Feng family. Shunsui sighed. Of course it was. Last night. They even defeated Abaraikuen. Momo said, in shock. Kira shook his head, slowly. Renji was barely alive when Captain Ikamaru and I found him, he replied. Those invaders are no joke, Ranjaku said, leaning against a wall. Is he going to be okay? Momo asked. He'll be fine. I stabilized his condition on the scene, Kira said, but it's a miracle that he's still with us. He had lost a lot of blood. Now what? Ranjaku asked. Throw him in jail, the calm, icy tone of Kachiki Byakuya said, sparking a jolt of fear in the youngest vice-captain in the room. Captain Kachiki, Momo said, I respectfully disagree with your decision. What for? Byakuya said, Vice-Captain Abarai willingly attacked the invaders, without reinforcements. He released his Zanpakuto, without permission. He willingly broke several laws of the Siriidii. But we will comply with your decision, Captain Kachiki. Kira interrupted, pushing Momo's head down. I doubt we comply, she said, sadly. With a scoff, Byakuya left the makeshift resting room. Momo exhaled. Ooh, so scary, Jin said, suddenly appearing in the room, producing a squeak from Momo. Captain, it's a surprise to see you here, Kira said. Is Central 46 going to put Vice-Captain Abarai on trial? Jin smirked. Shockingly, no. They have bigger things on their plates. That's good, said Momo, from under her breath. But, that does give the Captain Commander something to think about. What are we doing with Vice-Captain Abarai? Asked Kira. Jin shrugged, walking out of the room. Send him to the Med-Hold barracks. Let them deal with him, he said, before disappearing from sight. Ranjaku-san, will you help me take him over there? Kira asked. Ranjaku looked shocked that he would ask such a question. Why me? She said, my wrists really hurt, after a day of endless paperwork. I don't know if I will be able to help you. Kira narrowed his eyes. You were drinking all day. No, I wasn't. I was working. You were working on getting drunk. Shuhei was with you. Ranjiku's eyebrow twitched. Ah, I was dash. Just help. I'm not going to let you free that easily. With a sighing, Ranjiku ceased her complaining, and helped lift the litter. With the departure of the two, Momo was left in the room alone, to think. At least someone got her to work, Captain Hitsugaya said, appearing next to Momo, generating a genuine scream from her. Toshiro-kun. Do captains not make noise when they walk or something? She shouted. What are you doing here anyway? The proper term of address is Captain Hitsugaya, he said. I worked very hard for this position. Fine, Hitsugaya-kun, Momo teased, smiling brightly. Hitsugaya groaned. So, what are you doing here? I was looking for my vice captain, but I see that she is tending to Aburai-san. How did he get beaten so badly? Momo's smile faded. The invaders thought they're really strong. Something doesn't add up. Hitsugaya said, crossing his arms. Ikamaru. He's hiding something. What do you mean? Just watch out for him, that he might be up to something. Stop meddling, you. Aizen Sosuke said to no one in particular, practicing calligraphy in his room, when heard a knock. Enter, he said, sternly. With shaky and timid motion, the door crept open, revealing Momo, in her nightgown. I'm sorry about disturbing you so late. It's just that I couldn't sleep. You couldn't sleep? Aizen repeated. Momo nodded. Is this related to the invasion? Again, Momo nodded. I'm sorry. Aizen smiled, and stood up. You're welcome her as long you want, he said. You have a rough day. Let me brew up some tea. I checked on Ranjikun earlier. I heard he's going to make a full recovery, Aizen said. That's good. Momo responded. Captain Kachiki wanted to demote him, but everyone else argued against it. While his actions were reckless, he is a very talented young man, with a very bright future ahead of him. No one would like it if he was demoted. Thank you, Captain Aizen. Momo said. Aizen just smiled, in response. Day 3. They're just stairs, Ichigo said, dead of humor, looking down at Ganju and Hanataro struggling with the obstacle. Some just weren't blessed with your endless stamina, Ganju shouted. That's what your sister said too, Ichigo responded, with a grin. What? Nothing. Just hurry up. I've finally found you, Kurosaki. Ichigo, a menacing figure from above, said. An emergency meeting, and wartime protocol has been called. Shunsui said, I guess these invaders are no joke. Grabbing his Zanpakuto, he started walking toward the exit. Where are you going now? To wake up Jushiro. I guess I can take care of the invader too. Another body was sent flying, due to the immense power of Sato, and his right arm. No one had been able to challenge him. And he wasn't going to allow himself to lose. Young man, may I ask what you're doing? Shunsui said from above, falling from the ceiling, Haori flowing dramatically in the wind. Sato narrowed his eyes. Wow, that was an impressive entrance. Wish I had my rose petals accompanying me. That would have made it perfect. Sato tightened his fist, and charged forward, punching out. With a nonchalant motion, Shunsui caught the attack, with the butt of his katana. Don't you think my entrance would have been better with rose petals, gracefully around me, as I soared through the skies? He asked. Sato pushed back. Ah, a quiet one, Shunsui said. Move aside. Sato said. Shunsui clapped, chanting, he speaks, as he did so. I don't want to fight you. Same here. So let's not. Let's just talk this out, and leave uninjured. That I have to advance past you. For what reason? To save Kuchiki-chan. You only knew her for a couple months. Sato clenched his fists. She is one of my friends. And if Ichigo wants to save her, I will back him, in every way I can. So you must move out of my way. Unfortunately for you, there is nothing beyond me. Slow down. Hanataro said, struggling to keep up. I'm walking, Ichigo said, irritated. For some reason, his head was really hurting. Hanataro, are you okay? Ganju asked. Hanataro shook his head, before collapsing. Ichigo pinched the bridge of his nose. Of course you would be the first to collapse, he said, walking toward the fallen medic. Something seems to be wrong with him, Ganju said, I don't blame him. This place feels heavy. You felt it too? Ichigo asked, crossing his arms and raising an eyebrow, it's that I can't pinpoint what the hell is going on. It's just so widespread. Jingle. Ichigo took a step to the side, mere moments before a rusted blade penetrated his neck. On reflex, Ichigo grabbed his Zanpakuto, swinging it at a massive figure, who blocked it away. Nice one, the giant said, let's see if you can do that again. The man slammed his sword into the ground, where Ichigo was once standing, and grinned. I guess it wasn't a fluke. Ganju, get him out of him, Ichigo ordered. Silently, Ganju lifted the body of Hanataro, and ran off with him. They're taking the body away, Kenchan, a little pink-haired child on the back of the giant shouted, I wanted to play with it. That I hate this place so much, Ichigo said, tonelessly. Is this that guy Baldy was talking about, the girl asked. The man grinned madly. Looks like it. Ichigo narrowed his eyes. I really hate this place. Good, your stamina is top class, Shunsui said, deflecting another attack away, smiling, now, if only the stability of your attacks could be improved, you might be a threat. With a grunt, Sato sent another attack, which Shunsui, with less effort than before, knocked away. Don't let your emotions get the best of you. Sato looked at the captain, wide-eyed. How was he beating him like this? All that training. Nullified. Are you done? I can arrest you, without harming you. That would be for the best. Closing his eyes, Sato summoned the last remaining bits of his power, and charged forward. Shunsui eyes widened as he drew his swords, and slashed Sato twice, both times on his chest. The burst of power flew off randomly, and crashing behind his barracks, creating a massive explosion. That could have been bad. Shunsui said, sorry about cutting you. It had to be down. You're still here? Nanao asked, walking through a hole in a wall, I see you didn't do a quality job taking the invader down. He just needed a bit of consoling. Nothing major. Shall I apply the finishing touch, she asked. Shuansui's smirk dissolved. No, let's give him the right to a fair trial, he said, or, at least the fairest trial we can give him. He's an invader. And he's probably an ally of Dash. Enough. He has the right to prove himself innocent. Kurosaki Ichigo, the man said, with a smirk, I have been waiting for this. I got here yesterday, Ichigo said. My name is Zaraki Kenpachi. And as a reward for accepting my challenge, I will let you cut me wherever you want to. Ichigo narrowed his eyes. That honestly might be the stupidest thing I have ever heard, he said, that is so blandly stupid, that I'm pretty DMN confident that this is a trap. No tricks. No traps. Hit me with your best shot. Ichigo sighed, before charging forward, and with everything that he had, aimed a slash right at Kenpachi's jugular. The sword hit skin, but did not penetrate. Blood was dripping onto the floor, but it wasn't the captain's. Ichigo's eyes widened, before falling back into a neutral state. How disappointing, Kenpachi said, I guess this will be easier than I thought. Ichigo grimaced. Well, sheet, he said, jumping away. I thought you would be enough to cut me. Ikaku was completely wrong about you. Ichigo smirked. I have a few tricks up my sleeve, he said. Kenpachi grinned, before charging in, slashing wildly, nicking Ichigo a couple of times, but not inflicting anything serious on him. Ichigo calmly standing his ground, gathered his blade with both of his hands, slashed forward, cutting Kenpachi across his chest. You're leaving yourself way too open. Even someone relatively new with a sword saw that. Kenpachi grinned, as he looked at the shallow wound on his chest. So, you can cut me, he said. What changed, Ichigo? Nothing really, Ichigo answered, I just thought I'm just tapping into my strength a little more. Oh, you are, Kenpachi said, before the world seemed to shatter in front of Ichigo's eyes. What the, he sputtered, as the most intense spiritual pressure he ever felt overcame him. You look nervous, Ichigo. What's the matter? Kenpachi roared, in excitement. This isn't good. Yoruchi said, he can't win in his current state. He started to go help him, before thinking back. This isn't hollowification. How did Kurosaki get so powerful? Grimly, Yoruchi resumed watching the fight from a safe distance. Well, Urahara did need something to go off, to help, he said. I'll get involved, if the fight escalates too far. Ichigo couldn't move. He couldn't lift his sword. He couldn't dodge. He couldn't block. He was reduced to watching Kenpachi make mincemeat of his body. And Kenpachi was just euphoric or so it seemed. With a heavy overhead strike, Ichigo was blown into the wall behind him, blood sticking to the wall. His body crashed on the ground, and Ichigo couldn't move. Get up. You're boring me, Kenpachi said. Ichigo tried, but he simply couldn't. Kenpachi scoffed. Pathetic. I have no interest in killing the weak. Ichigo, releasing a burst of energy, stumbled back to his feet, and glared at the captain. Fortunately for you, I'm not weak, he said, surging with energy. He started to charge Kenpachi, Zanpakuto aglow with collected energy. Getsuga Tensho. Ichigo roared, slamming his blade into the chest of the captain, creating a massive blue explosion. When the dust cleared, Ichigo's eyes widened, as not only was his attack completely ineffective, but his Zanpakuto shattered. Kenpachi chortled, as he plunged his rusted blade into the neck of the substitute, grounding him. That was interesting, Ichigo, he said, but it just didn't work. For shame. The captain walked away, the bells in his hair jingling. And to think that Ikiku saw potential in you, he said, lifting the blade over his shoulder, kicking up some dirt. Ichigo tried to get up, but he felt life escaping him. Black. Ichigo felt himself being taken over by darkness. It felt horrible. It felt as if something was trying to absorb him, and smother him. And that Dmed mask covered his face again. DMN it, he said falling, until the familiar city rose, the skies pouring down in an intense rain. His Zanpakuto spirit stood in his favorite sport, waiting for him. Welcome back, Ichigo, the Zanpakuto spirit said. Ichigo frowned. Not this sheet again, he said, I'm not Dash. I'm aware. I decided that I was going to take a different approach to this problem. Ichigo narrowed his eyes. Maybe, you don't deserve to use my power, the spirit said, maybe I could take over for you. Ichigo stood up. What are you trying to say? Ichigo said, with a wavy double voice effect applied. The spirit chuckled, and summoned the sword Ichigo was accustomed to using for the past couple of days. You don't deserve my power, so I decided to take your approach on things, he said, charging Ichigo. With no weapon, the redhead was reduced to dodging the strikes. With a flick of his wrist, the spirit shot out a Getsuga Tensho, which nearly decapitated Ichigo. Frustrated, Ichigo leaped in, and swung at the spirit, not connecting with any attacks, but at least forcing him back. With a growl, Ichigo clenched his fists, and a sword of bone appeared. I don't need you. You are just a blade, Ichigo said, holding the bone sword with one hand, just like the one in my hand now. The spirit fired off 3 more Getsuga Tensho waves, which Ichigo easily dodged. Charging in, full of confidence, the substitute swung wildly at the spirit, who blocked every attempt. You refuse to see me as an partner, the spirit said. You are a sword. Ichigo roared, frustrated, energy bursting off of his blade, "I don't need you." With a swing of his arm, the blade fired off an red Getsuga Tensho wave, which crashed in the shocked spirit, blood exploding from the wound. Rolling back, the spirit prepared to attack, but found a blade in the shoulder. Ichigo grinned. "Turns out, I'm better without you," Ichigo said, darkly, before blasting another Getsuga Tensho, this one absorbed by the spirit. Kenpachi felt an intense burst of energy from behind him. Turning around slowly, his grinned, awaiting his reawakened challenge. Ichigo was standing, but it wasn't Ichigo. His Zanpakuto had reformed, but at the same time, it looked horrific. There was no glimmer of confidence in Ichigo's eyes. Instead, there was only anger and bloodlust. "What the hell?" Kenpachi asked. Ichigo's Zanpakuto had transformed itself from the butcher knife of the past, into a something that did not resemble a sword at all. The blade was jagged, and near the handle, large spikes protruded. On Ichigo's face, stood a mask resembling a hollow's. "This is new," Kenpachi said, grinning, "this is great." Ichigo's eyes turned from their natural brown color, to a bright yellow, as his scara turned black. Black excess crossed his wrist and chest, and something resembling a neck guard rose, made of the same material. "Prepare," Ichigo growled, before charging forward. Kenpachi rose his guard, and deflected the attack. Seeing a chance, Kenpachi recovered, and stabbed his sword forward, hitting Ichigo between his collarbone. "Things never change," Kenpachi said. Ichigo smirked. "Sure they do," he said, Zanpakuto glowing a vibrant red shade, Getsuga Tensho. The attack, instead of its former light blue complex, exploded with a furious scarlet shade. The attack ripped through Kenpachi, as if he was a piece of paper, and blood poured freely from the wound. "I guess I can stop holding back," Kenpachi said, grinning madly, clutching at his eye patch, "finally, an opponent that deserves my full strength. Haven't had a fight like this in years." Ichigo clenched his fist, as the spiritual pressure threatened to overcome him. "I'll end you," Ichigo said, darkly, clutching his Zanpakuto tightly. Kenpachi charged forward again, but Ichigo was phased. The captain couldn't approach him anymore. To prove his point, Ichigo lowered his stance, and allowed Kenpachi to slash his chest. "What the hell is happening back there?" Ganju said, suffocating due to the immense spiritual pressure. Hanataro still had not woken up, and he was still unsure where he was supposed to go. "DMN it, this place is so confusing," he said, as an explosion of violent energy happened, damaging several buildings behind him, and nearly crushing him. What the hell?" he whimpered, in front of an open door. From inside the room, Kuchiki Rukia sat, wide-eyed, from the pressures threatening to suffocate her too. "What is this?" she said, struggling to stay upright. The sword hit skin, but did not penetrate. Blood was dripping onto the floor, but it wasn't the substitutes. Kenpachi Zaraki, for the first time in a long time, found an opponent he could not cut. In response, Ichigo laughed, madly. "How disappointing," Ichigo said, "I guess you just couldn't keep up." Kenpachi tried to swing his sword again, but Ichigo beat him to the punch, slashing across his abdomen, knocking him through a building. "Don't you have any more tricks up your sleeve?" Ichigo said, walking through the hole he just created. "Oh my god." Yoruchi mustered, in complete shock. He had not seen this coming. Ichigo instability was an expected side effect, but the ability to completely overpower Kenpachi Zaraki was shocking. And the hollow mask appearing, yet Ichigo seems to be completely in control. "I guess you were right, Kisuke," he said, "this isn't hollowification. This is a million times worse." Blood splattered against the floor, as another one of Ichigo's attacks connected. Kenpachi's constant grin of madness had faded, and was replaced with a face indicating struggle. The child wasn't nearly this powerful minutes ago. What the hell changed? With a heavy overhead strike, Kenpachi was sent sliding into a wall, with a fresh new wound, joining the company of other fresh wounds. Kenpachi finally grinned again. Still standing, he said, unsteadily, must be disappointing, eh? Ichigo plunged his sword into the ground, prompting Kenpachi to raise an eyebrow. Hey, you're winning. No need to give up. I'm ending this, Ichigo said, calmly, as he pointed his right index and middle fingers at Kenpachi. What are you talking about? The captain shouted, as the two fingers collected energy, colored red. Kenpachi looked at the collecting energy, then glared at Ichigo. Kido. Really, he said, in all of my lifetime, I have never been felled by a Kido attack. Ichigo smiled, as the ball of energy he was collecting surged with electricity. Then try this one out for size, Ichigo said, as he fired the blast. To describe the size of the explosion created would be almost impossible. The blast completely and thoroughly destroyed buildings around the arena, and a red streak of power was seen by the entire Siriidii. The force of the attack was felt throughout, and all action just froze. What the hell is that? Yukitake Jushiro said, looking at the explosion from his house. It was unbelievably powerful, to the point where he believed that one of the invaders couldn't have produced something as mighty as that. There is no way, he said. Holy crap. Shunsui said, standing beside him. I can't believe it, Jushiro said, that's a zero. Shunsui eyes widened. A zero? Impossible. With the force like that mean that this is a Vasto Lord we're dealing with. We would have known about it before. Jushiro, wide-eyed, just shook his head slowly. I have no doubt about it. That was definitely a zero. Shunsui looked at his friend, then back at the fading explosion. Then we have a serious problem. The bars keeping Rukia from escaping shattered, and the girl was knocked back. She tried to get up, but the floors around her were quaking, threatening to break apart, and lead her to her doom. Well, even if the floors were calm, she couldn't move anyway, because the force exerted by the spiritual pressure was soul-rattling. This can't be Ichigo, she said, this is a monster. This wasn't just pain. This was dying. Kenpachi Zaraki, captain of the 11th Division, and one of the most fearsome Shinigami to ever be bred, stood on his last legs, feeling his body give up on him. First was the lungs, as he felt that breathing was extremely difficult, and he had to make himself remember to collect air. Next it was his heart, as the lack of blood in his body made the heart weak, and skip beats regularly. Or maybe it was slowing down, realizing that there was nothing to pump throughout his body, so there was no point. Then it was his sense of sound. He couldn't hear anything, but constant ringing, and it was driving him crazy. Muscle failure led him to the ground, on his knees, arms barely attached. He was dying. He knew it. There was no point trying to stop it. He was going to die. He was broken beyond repair. Death was calling him. And this substitute caused it. He was going to die, without fighting her again, all because this person who wasn't supposed to be a FANFICTION Shinigami was here. And there was nothing he could do about it. With the final, and most important muscle, the brain, giving out on him, the giant fell unconscious. Kusajishi Yachiru ran to her adoptive father. Ken-chan! Ken-chan, he shouted, as Ichigo stood and watched, mask discarded. Please wake up, Ken-chan. Ichigo, deciding that letting Kenpachi bleed out, instead of decapitating him in front of his daughter, was probably for the best, turned and prepared to walk away, before his right arm exploded. In a flurry of blood, connective tissues, and muscle, his right arm went limp, falling to his sides, blood dripping out. Within a few seconds, the rest of his body followed suit, and his fell to the ground, barely conscious, eyes returning to their original colors. Came up a little short. With light feet, Yoruchi landed right next to him. A zero with that kind of power, what the hell are you, Ichigo, he said, I guess I have to take you away from here. Early this morning. Did I fall asleep? Momo asked, sitting up in Captain Aizen's futon, before her phone went off. Her eyes went wide. I can't be late, she shouted, why didn't Captain Aizen wake me? Making her way over a sign that read, only authorized personnel beyond this point, she though a small barrack, just off the captain's main one. Well, he probably just recognized that I was stressed out by what's going on. Oh, I hope he doesn't think I'm unfit for my position, she said, as she turned a corner and froze. And screamed. What the hell is that noise? Ichigo asked, from underneath a raised platform, seeing several vice captains run toward the source. It was just going to be one of those days. Momo's eyes were frozen, transfixed on the sight before her, tears threatening to fall free. As Ranjaku, Shuhei, and Kira ran behind her, and froze, seeing what caused her to scream. The body of Aizen Sosuke, impaled onto the wall. Chapter 15, Sludge Factory. Not the captain. Ichigo screamed, slamming his fist into the wall. Unohana Retsu sat, calmly as the hot-blooded third seat pounded his rage into the wall. There's nothing we can do, she said, Captain Kenpachi's vital organs are far too damaged for us to repair. No matter how long we keep him underneath care, he'll never wake up again. Then why are you keeping him on life support? Yumachika asked, darkly. Retsu sighed. His next of kin, Vice Captain Kusajishi, refuses to allow us to pull the cord. Ichigo stopped punching the wall. He said. Ichigo stirred awake, in an unfamiliar location. He tried to move, but the wounds covering his entire body constricted him. He grimaced, remembering how he got those scars in the first place. Am I hollow now? He asked, aloud, to no one in particular. Technically, yes, Yoruchi said, surprising Ichigo a bit, your soul is bonded with the hollows. Ichigo frowned. FNG fantastic, got any good news? Not really. What does that mean anyway? That I'm bonded with a hollow's soul. Yoruchi sighed. Soul bonding is a very dangerous procedure. It is when a soul absorbs another soul, and takes in their power. That sounds pretty awesome. With the balance of the soul irreversibly disrupted, the soul begins to collapse on itself. Well, that explains why buildings are just falling in my inner world are just falling. Talking about your inner world, could you please explain what this sword is? Yoruchi said, pointing a paw at the sword propped up against the wall. Ichigo rose an eyebrow. That's my Zanpakuto, he responded, confused. Yoruchi narrowed his eyes. That is no Zanpakuto. It's weightless. It has no spiritual pressure. It is merely a sword. Ichigo smirked. Finally. This isn't a good thing. Why not? I finally have a weapon that isn't going to beach at me when I want to use it. This means, have you fully accepted the hollow to your soul? Ichigo shrugged. Yoruchi looked at him, then back at the blade. This is going to hard to explain. Do you think that could have been Kurosaki-kun? Orihime asked Yuryu, who, like her, were dressed as Shinigami. The Quincy shook his head. Of course not. That was a dash. Zero. Ichigo did come out of the shattered wearing a hollow's mask, if he remembered correctly. Maybe it was him, something that powerful. He could have told Orihime that, but seeing the woman overtaken with fear, hearing that the man she adored, as undeserving as he was a monster, would fill him with guilt, especially if it turned out that it wasn't him. It clearly wasn't him. He's not nearly that powerful, and that was clearly a zero, he said, through his teeth. Yoruchi, are you telling me that this new sword is a fusion between my hollow powers, and my Zanpakuto? Ichigo asked. Yoruchi shook his head. I had a theory, but this confirms it. Your old Zanpakuto was never a Zanpakuto in the first place. Ichigo blinked. What? No matter what Kisuke tried to tell me, nothing about your old sword reminded me of a Zanpakuto. You released it, without a name. It never was an Asachi. It didn't have any weight behind the swings. You had to force the blade to cut. So you can cut me. What changed, Ichigo? Nothing really. I'm just tapping into my strength a little more. The Getsuga Tensho doesn't not resemble a Shinigami technique that it appears more like in dot hollows. Yeah, when it turned red, but when it was still blue, it was still pretty standard. Yoruchi's look hardened. Blue. I have to call Kisuke, he said, walking into another room. Ichigo sighed, and stared at the ceiling. No ever tells me sheet, he said, drifting to sleep. White. That's all Ichigo said, floating in some sorts of spatial realm. Well, there was the hollow mask he was wearing, floating around, but it wasn't doing anything. And, with it blending so well with the environment, Ichigo wasn't even sure if it was even there. King, a voice, a lot like his, only laced with insanity, rang out, attracting the attention of the former substitute. What? He said, looking around. The mask, idiot. Ichigo turned towards the mask, who was uncomfortably close to his face. What do you want? Not even going to ask me who I am? I really don't care. TCH, arrogant, are we? Fine, who are you? The mask backed up. Remember when you in the hole, and you let your chain of fate expire? I'm guessing you were the result, Ichigo said. The mask laughed. Not even close. But that is when you bonded with me. F you, for that, by the way. Sorry. Ichigo said, shrugging, with a small smirk. The mask turned away from him. You're an a-hole, the mask said. Ichigo swept a hand through his hair. But if you were there the entire time, why did I only get access to you now? After Rukia's powers were taken away from me? The mask turned back toward Ichigo. Ask your parents. Ichigo's look of interest turned into an harsh glare. Why would they? Did he know? The mask appeared to be smirking. I dunno. But it doesn't hurt to ask, eh? That was pretty scary, huh? Ganju said, fortunate enough to land on top of some rubble. The medic popped his head from underneath. Ouch. Hanataro whined, struggling to free himself. With a sigh, Ganju reached down, and pulled him out. And to think. We were so close to saving that Rukia chick, he said, wondered what happened. You're here to save Kuchiki-san. Yukitate said, walking up behind him. Jushiro, who are you talking to? Shunsui said, from a higher level floor, one of the few that did not collapse. It seems to be someone from the Shiba clan. Takes me back. Ganju glared at the white-haired captain. Who are you? Oh, Kyan-san never spoke of me. I was his captain. Ganju backed up. Why you're one-san's captain? Indeed. He was a bright young man, and I believe he was going to be a fine captain one day. Ganju bared his teeth, as he clenched his fists. Then why did you let him die? He shouted. Jushiro's smile faded. I guess you weren't told what happened that night, he said, sadly. I really wish I could change what happened that night. Captain Yukitate, could you please not tell him anymore? Rukia said, standing on top of a hill rubble. Ganju blinked. You're the one who killed, he said, breathing heavily. Rukia looked at the ground sadly. Hold up, Kuchiki-san. No need to do this, Jushiro said, it's just a misunderstanding. It's not a misunderstanding. I killed Kyan-sama. I deserve the blame. And Ichigo wanted me to help save you, what a sick joke. So, where exactly am I? Ichigo asked. The mask turned toward him. In your inner world, the mask replied, in an irritated tone. Ichigo looked around. Where's the city? This is your inner world, not the one the fake Zanpakuto crafted. That's why I'm here. Ichigo rose an eyebrow. Wait, that means. Indeed. I am your Zanpakuto spirit. Congrats on being a dumbass and bonding with me. Hey, I said that I was sorry. Then what about the fake Zanpakuto trying to get me to fight together with him? All lies. You can't be a friend to your Asachi. You have to dominate them, and that's when they will give you their power. You are the king, and I am just the lowly horse. Ichigo looked around. So, I was right. Indeed. So, what about you? What about me? If I bonded with my Zanpakuto spirit, which would be you, apparently, then what does that make me? Ichigo blinked, as the mask seemed to smirk. Ichigo irises paled. Oh crap. Ichigo, a new, feminine, yet powerful voice, stirring the young man awake. Wake up, this is urgent. Ichigo eyes opened into narrow slits, irritated. Now you want to tell me something, he said, before catching a look at the woman. She was fairly tall, with a beautiful, chocolate skin color, with long, black hair, and golden eyes. Ichigo blinked. He has rather confused. Not about the woman, and where she came from, but the fact that she was quite NDE. And really, really hot. The former substitute just stared at her. Who are you? He asked. The woman glared at him, before snapping her fingers. Oh yeah, I don't believe I've shown you guys this form, she said. This is Yoruchi, in her real body. Ichigo blinked. And the cat persona? Just a disguise. A rather intensive disguise. Ichigo said, continue with what you were going to tell me. As you know, that sword over there is not a Zanpakuto, Yoruchi said, pointing to the object, thus, it ever getting stronger, through Bankai is impossible. Ichigo's head perked up, on the mention of Bankai. Yeah, when I fought the red-haired guy, he said something about a Bankai. What is it? Ichigo asked. Bankai is the final stage in a Zanpakuto's development. First, it is an Asachi, a nameless Zanpakuto. Then, when the owner knows the name of the Zanpakuto, they can unlock its true shape, through Shirkai. The final stage, Bankai, can only be accessed when the owner has completely mastered his or her Zanpakuto, to the point where the Shirkai can no longer gain power. Through Bankai, the owner can become 10 times stronger than Shirkai, but controlling the overwhelming force of a Bankai is no easy feat. Even if you could unlock, it still takes decades to fully utilize the power. Unfortunately for you, you do not have a Zanpakuto, thus Bankai is not an option for you. Now you're back at stage 1. Ichigo sighed, before snapping his eyes open. But I do have a Zanpakuto. Ichigo said, with a grin. Yoruchi said at the boy, confused. What are you talking about? It surprised me at first, but I'm sure of it. The Zanpakuto is no other than me. Something didn't feel right. Yuryu felt Sato's spiritual pressure fade, but he knew he was still alive. But Ichigo's normally explosive energy signature was not registering. It flared up a few hours ago, then just died. Inoue-san, do you feel Kurosaki? He asked. Orihime shook her head, softly. I felt it a few hours ago, but then he disappeared, she said, worry thickly laced in her voice. Do you think that he's hurt? Yuryu shook his head. He's fine, that it's just a little weird. That guy flares his energy all over the place, but now it just completely fades away. He must be somewhere his spiritual power is concealed. That's pretty much all he told me. Ichigo said, I really didn't understand it, but in layman's terms, I'm a Zanpakuto. Yoruchi cupped her chin, thinking about the situation. Then, with stern determination, burning in her golden irises, turned her attention to the boy. Ichigo, while I cannot get you to Bankai level, I can teach you everything I know, before Rukia's execution date. By that time, you will not only be as fast as I am, but faster. You will not be as strong as I am, but stronger. But everything Kisuke taught you about fighting, you have to forget about it at this moment. Ichigo looked into her eyes, and found himself struggling to say something. And you have to make me a very important promise, she said, tone softening, you, unless it is an emergency, cannot use your mask. Do you understand me? Ichigo blinked. That I guess it's a deal, he said. Yoruchi smiled. Good answer. Now, let's these nasty wounds of you taken care of. That I think that this was a bad idea. Where are you heading, pretty lady? A drunk Shinigami said, latching onto Oriheim's shoulder. The girl tried, as politely as possible, to escape his grasp, but the more she struggled, the tighter the man's grasp on her became. Nowhere with you, Yuryu stepped in, we're doing very important work here. Something I believe that you should be focusing on, instead of flirting with girls, and drinking. The man glared at him. How are yous posed to do work without yous Zanpakuto? Another man, this one much less coherent than his friend, said, heavily slurred. Yuryu's eyebrow twitched. We aren't required to have them, Oriheim quickly said, our work is so urgent that we didn't get the chance to grab them. The man's eyes narrowed, before focusing on her collar. Then he shook his head softly. FNG 12th Division, he said, before rejoining his drinking buddies, leaving the two to take their leave. Good one, Inoue-san, Yuryu acknowledged. Oriheim smiled. It was nothing that I really didn't do too much, she said back. It got us out of that situation, the Quincy said back, anyway, it's getting late. We need to find somewhere to stay. Freakin' patrol duty, a downtrodden man said, they can get an unseated officer to do this crap. Just because it's a war doesn't mean I need more. Who's there? Yuryu and Oriheim quickly snapped to the wall. I know that you are there. Just come out, and surrender, and no one has to get hurt. No need to yell, Yuryu said, walking into the open, we're just walking back to our barracks, and we took a faster route. The Shinigami frowned. Which division do you belong to? He asked. The 12th Division, he said. The man narrowed his eyes, as he reached for his blade. The barracks to the 12th Division are the other direction. Who the hell are dash, he said, before, painfully, receiving a plank to the back of his head. Man, the 11th Division can be such a pain, a man, with handsome features, and shaggy brown hair said. Yuryu and Oriheim blinked. Who are you? The Quincy asked. Oh, we're just fellow 12th Division allies, a female, from the group said, we heard a couple of new recruits were lost near the 11th Division barracks, so we came out to help them find home. Yuryu narrowed his eyes. Something doesn't add up, he thought, before noticing a man in the background. Inoue-san, get down, he shouted, covering her body with his, as one of the members exploded. Oriheim snapped into focus, and summoned her shields, protecting Yuryu back. The Shinigami looked back, in horror. Captain Kuratsuchi, this isn't what you promised, the brunette shouted, frenzied. The captain pressed a button on his remote, and ended the man's life. The bombs aren't supposed to return, he said. Yuryu glared at him, summoning his bow. Thank you, Inoue-san. I can take it from here, he said, sternly. Oriheim looked at him, then at the Shinigami. Are you sure? She asked, as Mayuri approached. My, that is one interesting ability, he said, I have never seen something like that. I am sure of it. Nullifying the attack fully that I must study you. Don't take another step, Yuryu said, taking aim. Go away, Quincy. I'm done studying your breed. I'm talking to the girl, Mayuri said, if you are worried, I am rather gentle with female subjects. What are you talking about? She is not going to be your subject. I'll give you the best treatment I've ever offered. I'll only drag you 8 times a day, and you would be under the machine for only 4 hours daily. I'll let you sleep with clothing, and even let you eat with your mouth. I said that she won't be a subject, Yuryu said, arrow ready for Mayuri's head. The scientist chuckled. Why are you still here? I have no more interest in your kind. Then I'll make you interested, the Quincy said, before shifting a glance at Oriheim, Inoue-san, please leave. Oriheim stood up. Ishida-kun, I just take leave, she said. Yuryu sighed, then focused on the man from the 11th Division. You, take her away, he said. Me, the man said, trying to creep away, why? If you don't, I'll end your career as a Shinigami. Good enough reason for me, the man said, grabbing a hold of Orihime, and breaking off into a sprint. Who said you could run away? Mayuri said, arm breaking off into segments, chasing after them. Yuryu fired an arrow, which destroyed the hand. Who said you could go after them? The Quincy said, look focused into a dark glare. Mayuri looked back at him, and his smile grew. I said I have no interest in studying Quincy's anymore. Too bad, Yuryu said, firing another arrow, which blew through the wall behind Mayuri. From the dust, another segmented hand flew out, toward the Quincy, who suddenly disappeared, and appeared on a nearby roof. Hirenkyaku. Mayuri said, appearing beside him, I'm surprised someone as young as you could master such a technique. Regardless, I'm done studying Quincy's. You, how? Did you come here completely unprepared? I simply used Shuunpa to avoid the attack. Simple actually. Looking around, the scientist looked down, and sighed. It seems my subject has escaped, too, and I have to waste time dealing with you. I'll just make this quick. Grabbing the sword. From between his crouch, he growled out a menacing, rip, Ashisoji Jizo. The katana shifted into a deformed golden trident. What the, he said, confused. He pointed his bow, but a young woman intercepted his attack, and took hold of him. He wouldn't, he thought. The mad scientist slashed through the woman's back, and Yuryu's shoulder, and the two crashed onto the ground below. Useless, Mayuri said, grabbing the woman's hair, roughly, I told you to hold on to him, and not to let him go. He threw her head first into the wall, then turned back to the Quincy. Good help is so hard to find, he said, grinning madly. Yuryu tried to recover, but he found himself unable to move. What's, he gasped. Mayuri tilted his head. What, are you just figuring out what's flowing through your body? My Ashisoji Jizo has a special brand of toxin, which severs nerve connections. So a tranquilizer? Yuryu said. Heavens no. I would never use outdated technology like that. Tranquilizers numbs the area infected. My toxin still allows you to still feel pain. To demonstrate, Mayuri stabbed Yuryu in the arm, breaking his humerus, and producing an ear-curdling scream from the Quincy. The scientist sighed. Screams from males are so unattractive. I would love to hear the screams that female would make. If only she didn't get away. Yuryu's body started to rise, energy dancing around him. I will not lose to you, he said, glove on his wrist shaking. The captain stood still, in anticipation of what to come. I'm sorry. Yuryu said, releasing the straps of his glove, and power surged around him. Hell. A man, with a long, black jacket, with thin red stripes, that appeared to be an upside cross, laid back, against a tree. His long, spiky hair was tied back into a ponytail, and covering his eyes was a white cloth. On his jacket, there was an upside-down Quincy cross lapel. Shame seeing you here, Ryukuin, the man said. In response, Ryukin said nothing. These days, I doubt you're seeing anything, he said. The man laughed. Shame about your son, he said, loves the Quincy life, and now seems like he's about to throw his life away to protect some woman who doesn't even love him. Sounds a lot like you, eh? I doubt this is about that girl, Ryukin said, looking up, and you're surprisingly informed for someone who hasn't left hell in years. The man turned around, and pointed to a hell butterfly, perched up on a tree. Tells me everything that I need to know, he said, what an interesting soap opera I have to watch. And maybe your son might end up lucky. That Ichigo kid might not even able to make it. Of course, your son will just be a distant second, but like if you had ended up with Masaki, I bet you would absolutely love that. Ryukin turned around, annoyed. I don't know why I even tried, he said. Sometimes, I ask myself why my sister tried to deal with you in the first place, the man said. I already told you that I'm not dealing with Quincy Sheet anymore, even if it is family. Why don't you believe me, Ryukuin? I figure you would at least try to understand, Kurosaki. You can always call me by my first name, Ryukuen. Kurosaki reminds me of what I have lost. How did your power inflate like that? Mayuri screamed, before flying an arrow in his shoulder. He stared the Quincy, and started preparing a Kido attack, but before he could launch it, Yuryu was above him, launching yet another arrow, nearly obliterating the body of the captain. That was a third of my power, Yuryu said, unless you want the rest of your body to be a bloody mass, repent for what you did, and promise that you will not look at Inoue-san as a subject. Mayuri growled in utter and complete fury. Do you think that you have won, Quincy? He roared, Bankai. Yuryu rose an eyebrow. What's a Bankai? He said, as a giant, mutated caterpillar, with the head of an infant appeared. Kanjiki Ashisoji Jaizio. Mayuri screeched, it's too bad I can dissect your brain. The sacrifices we had to make, sometimes. The Zanpakuto released a thick cloud of purple miasma, and Yuryu knew that he had to hurry. Even the slightest of drips with this toxin is completely lethal. Prepare to die, brat. Yuryu calmly prepared an arrow. I gave you a chance, he said, releasing the arrow. It looks the same as the one underneath the shop, Ichigo said, tightening a loose bandage, and your bandages aren't working. They would be, if you weren't so heavily wounded, Yoruchi, now dressed, said, and Kisuke made it, long before we left for the human world. Interesting. Ichigo felt his eyes twitch, as a large burst of spiritual pressure hit him. Yoruchi, did you feel that? He asked. Yoruchi nodded. What, are you worried? No, it's nothing. Let's get started. Mayuri-sama, the woman said, still laying down, as the captain stood, with a massive hole in his body. In front of him, Kanjiki Ashisoji Jaizo split in half. He bared his teeth, before grabbing his sealed Zanpakuto. DMNU, Quincy, he shouted, stabbing himself in the neck, and turning to liquid. Yuryu readied another arrow, before the bow disappeared. It's already gone, he whispered. The scene settled, and the Quincy began to cough, madly. My toxin has already taken effect. Mayuri said, farewell, Quincy. Yuryu tried to locate him, but couldn't. With his powers fading away at such a rapid pace, it would be nearly impossible to find the captain. Quincy-san, the woman said, underneath my vice-captain badge, is an antidote. The Quincy sighed, and slowly walked over to her. Thanks, he said, taking the vial, and downing it. Instantly, he felt the effects. Thank you for sparing Mayuri-sama, she said. Yuryu narrowed his eyes. My finger slipped. I meant to kill him, he said. Regardless, he is still alive, and I am glad. It would be better if he wasn't. Looking down, the Quincy started to walk away, before pausing. What is your name? He asked. The girl looked surprised that he would ask such a question. My name, Kuratsuchi Nimyu, she responded. Yuryu smiled, slightly. I'll have to remember that, he said, walking away. I can barely enough walk now. Yuryu thought, as he struggled up a hill, the Ransatengai is fading that I'm not going to be able to make it much further. Inoue-san, seems to be in good shape. She's much stronger than that guy, so she should be okay. Upon reaching the top, he saw where he was at, and smirked. The Shishinro, he said, I bet it would PSS Kurosaki off if I was the one to save Rukia. Intercepting him, was a black man, with long dread black hair. I mean no harm, invader, he said, grasping his sword, but this senseless bloodshed ends. Cry, Suzumushi. A high-pitched noise filled Yuryu's ears, and knocked him unconscious. Your fight ends here. Isshin-san, I know why you're here, Urahara said, calmly. Isshin, on the other hand, looked furious. You mind explaining what's happening to my son? He growled. Urahara looked down, trying to formulate a response. Yoruchi is dealing with it, he said. Isshin charged him, and grabbed him by his collar. "That is not the response I was looking for," he roared. "I don't know what to say. Yoruichi is trying her best. Soul bonding, however, is irreversible. Seeing that he bonded with his Zanpakuto at such an early state won't decrease his life expectancy too much. I don't give a shit about that. You did this to my son. And now he—" "Kurosaki, calm yourself," Ryukin said, entering the shop. Ishin let go of the shopkeeper, and looked at the Quincy, full of hope. "What did Hayato say?" he asked. Ryukin shook his head softly. He wouldn't even make an exception for one of Masaki's children. Ishin looked down. "Now what?" he asked. "I don't know." Urahara said, for the first time, in a long time. Chapter 16, Don't Look Back in Anger. Day 4. Ichigo was very close to summoning his mask. Bleeding from the several cuts on his limp, left arm, he glared at his mentor, who just smirked in response. "Are you frustrated, Ichigo?" she asked. Ichigo softened his look. "You're developing at a rather slow rate. I'm guessing you're not cut out for Hakuto." Ichigo tried to hide his reaction, but he couldn't, and his face fell into a deep fury. Of course he was frustrated. He didn't have a Zanpakuto, no one is telling him anything, and he wasn't getting any closer to completing his mission. He had all right to be frustrated. "Summon your mask, idiot," the hollow mask, which Ichigo, still not knowing his name, dubbed him Kamen, shouted, "You're stronger than her, when you use my powers. Ignore the mask. Ignore the mask. Ignore the mask. I can hear your thoughts, idiot." Ichigo exhaled, before standing upright. "I hate everything right now," he said, "when this is over, I want answers." Yoruichi looked down, as if she sympathized with him. "I'll make sure you get them," she said, "but right now, you have to get stronger." "You want to save Rukia now?" Ichigo looked up, before focusing back on Yoruichi. "I don't even know anymore. What do you want to do the most in your life?" Kurosaki Masaki asked her young son. The boy's face lit up, and he smiled brightly. "To protect," he said, with the highest amount of pride he could muster. Masaki's face lit up, with a large, beautiful smile, and said, "That's good. And I know you can do it." "Can you please leave?" a 13-year-old Orihime asked, gently, as if she wanted the opposite, but didn't want to be reminded of that night with his presence, wearing a simple black dress. Ichigo, in a black suit, narrowed his eyes, and did not move an inch. "The only other people are his co-workers," he said, "I'm not leaving you alone." "I'm already alone," she replied, "just, please leave. You need a friend right now." "You're not my friend," she snapped, tears threatening to stream, "I only know YUBB because." She started fumbling over words. The stress of the week was starting to hit her. Living in their apartment, sleeping in their room, everything she did with Sora, that she was forced to do alone, all of new-found responsibilities hit her, and she started to panic. Ichigo didn't do much, but grab her by the wrist, and look into her eyes. "I've been there before," he said, sadly, "even if I never experienced the level of pain you are feeling right now, I can help. I will do everything in my power to help." Orihime weakly tried to free her tiny wrist, but the double gut punch of the pain of loneliness and the realization that she was expected to continue her life, was too much for her, and it collapsed on her. "PP please.L leave," she sputtered. Ichigo exhaled, helping the girl find her feet, and escorted her to her seat. Ichigo sat completely motionless throughout the entire funeral. He did not want to disrupt the crying girl, pouring out all of her pent-up emotions on his shoulder. All he could do was stare at the closed casket, and fume internally, wishing everything could have been different that night. Life wasn't fair. "You were literally going to die, over this coin," Ichigo said, agitated. A beaten Sato laid on the ground, and grunted in response. "It's just a DMN coin. I will never understand you." "My abuelo," Sato said. "Look, Chad, I don't understand that Spanish crap, so knock it off. It was my abuelo's most prized possession, the dark-skinned male said, deeply. He gave it to me, before he died. Ichigo's look softened, as he remembered his mother's last gift to him, a silver locket, which Ichigo never wore, not because he thought it was girly, because if anything would happen to it, he doesn't think he would be able to control his reaction, with a family portrait in it, and how it never left his desk. How he would tear through his room looking for it, if it had ever disappeared. Even though it was just a coin, Ichigo found some form of common ground with the giant. You can at least defend yourself, Ichigo said, bitterly. Ichigo had all the right to be frustrated. Left and right, no one was telling him anything. He didn't want to be here, but he knew he couldn't let Rukia die for his choice. Yoruchi looked somewhat concerned, but she still held her ground, not revealing anything. It hurt, knowing that people are willingly leaving you in the dark. It frustrated him. Saving Rukia wasn't even his primary goal anymore. He was now trying to get some DMN answers. With saving Rukia, he knew he'll be closer, but that's what has been frustrating his the most. The constant chores. Ichigo felt that with every revelation, came another chore. After saving Rukia, he'll probably have another obligation to uphold. Irritating. At least Cayman hasn't lied to him. Yet. Renji, wake up. What do you want, Zabumaru? Renji growled. The Zanpakuto shook. We are healed. We are stronger now. And now, we can fight Ichigo again, Zabumaru said. Renji closed his eyes. Ichigo isn't our enemy anymore, he said, softly. The Zanpakuto stopped shaking. Then who will you fight, Renji? Renji looked into the ceiling, before smirking. Zabumaru, upon realizing what Renji was thinking, shook again. Sir, I didn't know where to take her. The Shinigami, who was named Aramaki Mikizo, said, to a focused Ikaku, I didn't want to take her to confinement, nor leave her back at the barracks. Orihime tried to minimize her presence, but still felt everyone's eyes on her. It's fine. Ikaku said, not that it matters. Special forces are probably crawling all over the place. She'll be found any moment now. Orihime looked at the bed that Ikaku's back was resting against, and the man in it. Is he still alive? She asked. Ikaku rose an eyebrow. Yeah. What about it? Orihime looked down, before grasping all the confidence she had stored. I can heal him. Ikaku's expression showed immense doubt. Captain Unohana couldn't do anything, and this machine is the only thing keeping him alive. I doubt you could. Orihime exhaled heavily. If you give me a shot, I think I can help, she said, much softer than before. Ikaku stared at the young woman, before sighing. Truthfully, it can't hurt, he said, before popping to his feet. Come on, Mikizo. Let's give her some space. Yoruchi was confident that taunting would jumpstart the kid, but Ichigo still fought with no motivation. Where it was clear that he lacked motivation in the past, this was odd. With every punch, he left himself open. With every step that he took, he left himself defenseless. It was like he didn't care anymore. With all her other pupils, the fear of death, or in one special case, the thought of disappointing her, fueled them, but Ichigo was clearly different. He had no fear of death, and it actually seemed that he awaited it. As for failing her, he didn't seem too concerned about that either. Why was he here? Love was out of the question, because Ichigo's ridiculous lack of care showed that if it was love, it was a disturbing way of showing it. Same goes for friendship. Obligation. Whenever she talked to Rukia, she seemed concerned for Ichigo's mental health, citing rather disturbing claims. With Ichigo's complete and utter disregard of his life, it seemed that she was right. Ichigo was not just a danger to others. He was a danger to himself. Where is your motivation, Ichigo? Where is your motivation, Ichigo? Cayman asked. Ichigo sighed. Leave me alone, Cayman. I told you that I hate that name, the mask shouted. Ichigo shrugged. I don't care. Seems you don't care about a lot of things. I don't. Not even your life. What's the point? Maybe if you stop being so goddamn depressed all the DMN time, maybe you would be able to find it. The mask awaited a response, but Ichigo said nothing. I hate you. It doesn't have any impact coming from you. Maybe it doesn't, Kamen said, but what about you? What do you want? Why are you here? Ichigo clenched his fists. Truthfully that I don't even know anymore, he said. I thought it was to save Rukia, but no, that seems to be the least of my problems. Kamen stared at the former substitute. You know you will die. Kamen said. Ichigo sighed, and nodded. With everyone being so secretive, I assumed so. How long do I have? If I continue to grow at this rate, maybe 10 or 15 years. That's discomforting. Probably shorter though. Why are you telling me this? You don't have motivation to live, because your lifespan is already abridged. So what's the point of caring? Go save Rukia, go find the truth, and then worry about your death. I promise you, I will give you the power necessary to overcome any obstacle. You might not be afraid of death, but I am, so let me aid you. Ichigo looked up, before smiling. I guess that this is a fair trade. Let's rock. Day 5. Very good, Ichigo, Yoruchi said, seeing a massive improvement from yesterday. Ichigo smirked, as he dashed in, and moved forward, with an open palm, which Yoruchi ducked under. She then released a counter-attack, which Ichigo deflected away, using his semi-armored wrist. She swept a leg underneath Ichigo trying to catch him off balanced, but he lifted the foot targeted. With a stomp, Ichigo released a burst of spiritual pressure, putting some distance between him and his master. Yoruchi prepared to defend herself from the front. I'm not that slow, Ichigo said, hovering behind the woman. Yoruchi snapped her head to the side, just in time to receive a kick to her midsection, lifting her off the ground. Ichigo then hooked his leg around her waist and threw her toward the ground. Her rapid descent to the ground was hard enough that her body bounced upon impact, which Ichigo took advantage of, launching a devastating elbow, which sent her flying a good 20 feet back. She crashed into a rock, and her body fell to the ground. How about that, Yoruchi? Ichigo said, with a smirk. Recovering, Yoruchi wiped the blood from her mouth, and smiled. I think that's enough for today. I doubt the shopkeeper did all of this, Ichigo said, recovering in the hot springs. That guy was a bum. Didn't teach me anything, and arguably got me in more trouble. Ichigo, do you have to complain about everything? Yoruchi said, also lounging in the springs. Ichigo shrugged. I know I shouldn't, but that guy has caused me more trouble than it's worth, he said. Well, if I wasn't being a passive beach, I probably wouldn't be stuck here in the first place. But it's worth it, because you get to see me naked, eh? Yoruchi teased. Ichigo looked at her, before shrugging again. I don't know. I don't fantasize about the opposite sex too much. I too focused on making myself the most miserable man on the earth. And how's that going? Well, since Lane Staley died, I think I'm getting there. Still a lot of misery for me to make up. I don't know who that is, Yoruchi said, in which Ichigo responded with a sigh. I forgot that you were old, he said, in which Yoruchi responded with a quick twitch of her eye. If there was anything in the immediate vicinity that could have been thrown at the teen, it would have been tossed. But alas, Ichigo was safe. Disregarding that last statement, Yoruchi said, deeply, almost sounding like a growl, why are you trying to make yourself miserable? Because of lots of reasons. Past failures. Lack of strength. Sheer pessimism. I have a lot of problems. Yoruchi's expression softened. Is this why you don't care if you live, or die? I'm going to die anyway. Ichigo said, it truly doesn't matter anymore. I'll play the hero this one time, but then, I want to know why I was chosen. Yoruchi closed her eyes, focusing. Ichigo, tomorrow, I have something to teach you. Day 6. This is getting me nowhere. Ichigo said, trying to rein in his spiritual pressure. You had so much control over it before, Yoruchi said, what's the matter? Missing Inoue? Before, it was easy. Now, it's all rough and chaotic. And why is Inoue not being here supposed to affect me? Yoruchi giggled. You don't have a pretty girl to impressive, she said, ridiculously sweetly. Ichigo blinked. I would really wish you could stop sounding like the shopkeeper. It's disrupting my training. Orihime yawned, stretching her sore muscles out. She couldn't remember if she had fallen asleep, trying to heal the captain. She knew she was sleepy at that moment though. I'll sleep later, she said, to herself, before the door burst open, and Captain Unohana walked through. Orihime nearly fell out of her chair. Who are you? Unohana asked, cautiously. Orihime blinked, before popping to her feet, and bowing. My name is Inoue Orihime. It is a pleasure to meet you, she said, enthusiastically, but incredibly tired. Unohana's body stiffened. Inoue? Then she must be that girl. My name is Unohana Retsu. The pleasure is all mine, the captain said, politely. She then walked over to the bed, and pulled out a stethoscope. She placed it on Kenpachi's chest, and stood, silent. His heartbeat has recovered, she said, confused, but her tone lacking any question. I'll have to run a full body scan, but I believe we can take him off of life support. So, I healed him? Orihime asked. Somehow, you did, Retsu answered, come child. Let's find you somewhere to rest. I'm sure that this is the place. Renji said, looking into a cavern. With a splash of red energy, Ichigo fired off another spiritually charged punch, carving the ground. The former substitute paused, gather more energy, before firing off another shot. What are you doing? Yoruchi asked. Ichigo shrugged. The more I experiment, the more I learn I can do, he answered. This technique resembles a Quincy's fighting style. Or, I think it does. I don't think Ishida isn't the end all of Quincy fighting styles. Yoruchi nodded. Impressive on how fast you are learning, now. What changed? Ichigo narrowed his eyes, before turning to his teacher. Well, that I kinda dash. Ichigo. Renji shouted, holding on to the teen's discarded sword, you forgot your Zanpakuto. How are you going to train without it? I didn't forget it, Ichigo said, harshly, what are you doing here? I'm training. I'm so close to Bankai, that it almost hurts, he replied, then, I'll be able to save Rukia. That still doesn't answer why you're down here. You can train up there. Renji frowned. Well, that's true. There was another reason why I came down here. Spit it out. With a sigh, and a face, full of hardened determination, Renji turned toward Ichigo. In 24 hours from now, Rukia will be executed. Chapter 17, Bark at the Moon. Renji waited for Ichigo's reaction. After about 15 seconds of awkward silence, Ichigo turned back to Yoruchi, and muttered a simple, stoic, I see, crossing his arms. Renji blinked. Don't you even care? Renji screamed. Ichigo shrugged. Not in particular. I guess I can go save her tomorrow. Renji ran to the former substitute, and grabbed him by his collar. You better show some DMN urgency. Rukia is going to die if we don't do anything. I am aware of this, Abarai. Renji's grip tightened. Then why don't you care? I do care. Unfortunately, it seems that my life is derailing before my eyes, and I am helpless to right it, so Rukia's execution has been placed on the back burners. Abarai, let him go, Yoruchi said, forcefully, Ichigo's been going through a lot of stress lately. Renji bared his teeth, but in the end, let him go, and stomped off. I'm going to train. Rukia's life is actually important to me. Good for you, Ichigo said, rolling his eyes, and turning to Yoruchi. I don't know if I'm ready, but now, I have to be. Yoruchi frowned. Truthfully, with his display of power during his fight with Kenpachi, Ichigo was clearly powerful enough to fight whoever would stand in his path. The problem was not his sheer power output, but his lack of control. Before the Hollow Zanpakuto hybrid became his main source of power, Ichigo could control his powers extremely well, but now his powers flared randomly, and spiked often. It doesn't help that using his powers caused physical injuries to him. When he becomes more experienced in using his powers, this problem should go away, but that means he's cutting further into an already shortened life. Honestly, she didn't know what to do. Stripping Ichigo of his powers was the most advisable option, but this wouldn't solve the problem that his soul was bonded. She could try to separate the two souls, but that was a disaster waiting to happen. Ichigo lacked someone who could balance his soul out, so that option was out of the question. I'm sorry, Masaki, she thought, sadly. Of course you're not ready, but you're going to fight anyway. Ichigo sighed. I came too far not to. It's fine. Just don't use your mask. Lord Muken. Lord Muken, a man, with light brown hair, reaching down to the middle of his back said, running into an office. Yura, wearing a much more appropriate outfit than before, turned toward him, with a confused expression on her face. Roy, what are you doing here? She asked harshly. Did Virgil send you here? Lord Alexanderson did not send me here, Ensign Roy Brandt said. I came here because I heard that you went to the world of the living, without official orders. So. I went. Big deal. I'm a Lord of Death. I don't need orders to go places. You killed a demon. Yura froze. And? You're not a demon hunter. There are 3 demon hunters in Karakura town. They were certified to deal with that situation, not you. And not to mention what you did is considered poaching. To protect you from Lord Alexanderson's wrath, I came down here to get some dash. I'm not afraid of Virgil. And the demon was one created by Nev Bolezen. They're exceptions. Roy narrowed his eyes. That dash. Ensign Brandt, what exactly are you doing here? Another woman, this one slender, compared to Yura's buxom frame, walked in, long, straight black hair reaching her waist. Roy turned his head slightly. Lord Tobias, I dash. What Lord Muken does with her time is her business. Leave. Roy stared at the woman, defeated, before walking away. I tried to help. Hopefully, Lord Alexanderson doesn't react too badly over this. Thanks Shamira, Yura said, with a smile. It's Lord Tobias. We're on duty hours. Act. Professional. Whatever. I just know when that guy gets eligibility for becoming a Lord of Death, I'm giving him a strong decline. As am I. But the horseman who represents Pestilence is looking at him. What, Pestilence? Ugh, that guy is annoying. Sending in Veer Lord Alexanderson was one thing, but to actually think that Ensign Brandt is worth shit and actually hand him a position of real power, ick. The horseman who represents Pestilence is no longer trying to play fair, I guess. Political mind games were always his specialty. Yura chuckled at this notion. Too bad he doesn't have a politician. Lord Alexanderson is more cut out to be a Lord of War, and that Shinigami he has is under heavy watch. It doesn't hurt that there's a Lord of Famine and Conquest nearby too. You forgot Lord Bolezen. That guy. When we find that guy, he's done. You sound confident. I am. What has Horseman Death been up to? The horseman who represents death is watching. Waiting. Studying. He has a plan for everything. Yura sighed, shaking her head softly. You can just call him Horseman Death, she said, flatly, it's not like he'll punish you or something. Shamira smiled. Act professional, Lord Muken. You saved me. Kenpachi said, stared at Orihime, who could not describe the feeling of awkward she was feeling, knowing that everyone in the room, Ichigo, Yumachika, Yachiru, and Retsu, were also looking at her. Not trusting her tongue at that point, she responded with a soft nod. Kenpachi started to laugh. Must have been rough, eh? It took her over 30 hours to heal to your injuries, and you still aren't medically cleared, Captain Unohana said, sternly. This girl is the only reason why you are talking right now. You better show her some appreciation, Captain Kenpachi. The man's laughter evened itself out into a smile. Thank you, he said, sincerely. He honestly could not remember the last time he thanked some, but here he was, thanking an intruder for keeping him alive a little longer. Maybe he'll be able to fight Ichigo again. Revenge for nearly killing him. You're welcome, Orihime said, weakly. Yachiru, breaking the solemn mood of the room, jumped into Orihime's lap. For saving Ken-chan, I'll make you an honorary member of Squad 11, she shouted. Orihime blinked. It'll be great. We can fight people, and cut people with swords, and punch stuff, and break stuff, and build sand castles, then kick down sand castles, and light stuff on fire, and shave cats and dogs, and eat candy, and catch butterflies, and squish them, and dash. Yachiru-chan, I don't think I would want do that. It'll be fun, Ichigo said. But, I'm not very strong, so I can't fight, and I don't know how to use a sword, and everyone says my punches don't hurt, even though Tatsuki-chan taught me really well, and I get sad why I break something, and while I like building sand castles, I think kicking down would be sad, and Kurosaki-kun is the one who likes fire, and he doesn't allow me to use a lighter, and he took out my old gas oven, because it had an open flame, and he said it was dangerous, and I don't think shaving cats and dogs would make them any happier. Ichigo blinked. Well, she could ramble as well as Yachiru. Wait, is Yachiru still talking? Oh God, this was a horrible idea. I get it, he said. Orihime and Yachiru stopped speaking. Well, Yumachika said, we could always have more beautiful people join our squadron. Ichigo grinned. Wow, Yumachika, I never thought I would see what I just saw, he said. What? You praising a woman on her looks? Yumachika blinked, before his face contorted into a angry, yet still beautiful, according to Yumachika, of course, glare. What the hell is that supposed to mean, he shouted. Figure it out. I'll do it. Orihime said. The room sat still. But, she added, perking up, you have to help me first. Kenpachi grinned. You know you didn't have to join for us to help you. We're indebted to you forever, he said. Orihime smiled. You know that what I just heard you say is considered treason, and by law, I am forced to arrest you. Kenpachi blinked, before turning to the woman. But did you hear anything? He asked, dumbly. Retsu smiled, and turned to leave the room. Of course not. Don't strain yourself. Day 7. The final day. Are you ready, Ichigo? Yoruchi asked. Ichigo, not wearing the top to his shihakusho. Ichigo sighed, before standing up. I guess, he said. Yoruchi stared into his eyes, before grabbing an item, wrapped in a red cloth, and handing it to Ichigo. This was my father's, she said, the family sigil is imprinted on this brooch. Ichigo unwrapped the item, as she said, there was a gold medallion, with the Shihoin crest on it. Ichigo dangled it in front of his eyes. Just because you gave me some jewelry doesn't mean that I'll have a CC with you, he said, flatly. Yoruchi laughed, walking towards the door. You have a wonderful sense of humor, she said, why you don't have a girlfriend is beyond me. Ichigo ran up beside her, and smirked. Oh, I have the ability to get one, he said, placing the medallion over top of a tan cape, that he just threw on, but I like to be fair to the inferior males. Let him have a chance. The two walked out, and looked up at the Sokayaku hill. That's where she going to be executed, right? Ichigo asked. Right. All right. Let's hurry up and end this. Renji ran, as fast as he could, through the endless alleys of the Suriidai, toward the Sokayaku hill, determined. I won't let Rukia die, raced through his head, the only though on his mind. He stepped into a wide open clearly, and froze. He's here, he whispered, looking up. Where are you going, Renji? Byakuya asked, standing on top of a building. Renji narrowed his eyes. I'm going to save Rukia, Renji said, sharply. Byakuya leaped from his perch, and landed about 20 feet from the red head. No you are not, he said. Renji unsheathed his Zanpakuto. I am. If you aren't going to let me pass you, I guess I have to defeat you. Byakuya did not react. You cannot defeat me. I can and I will, Renji said, determination burning in his words, I will defeat you. I will save Rukia. I know everything about the way you fight. I know your Zanpakuto in and out. Does that automatically mean that you can beat me? How optimistic. Byakuya drew his sword, and Flash stepped behind Renji, preparing to stab him in the back. However, steel met steel, and the two pushed off of each other. You caught my attack, Byakuya said. Impressive. I told you, Captain Kuchiki. I'm ready for this, Renji said. I truly doubt that, Byakuya said back, holding his sword upright, scatter dash. Byakuya stopped his release command, holding his sword defensively, to catch the released Zabumaru, flying toward him. Renji smirked, retracting the blade. You released your Zanpakuto without the command, did you? Renji nodded. I told you that I was ready. And now, I'm here to prove so, he said, clutching the Zanpakuto tightly, Bankai. Hihio Zabumaru. The intense burst of energy was the first sign to Byakuya that Renji had not yet mastered his Bankai. It was too powerful, as if Renji was just forcing power to leak from his blade, without truly controlling it. The next sign was that moments after the transformation, Renji's spiritual pressure failed to even itself out. When did you achieve Bankai? He asked, not that he was interested. Renji glared at his captain. You don't need to know, he said, I truly think that you don't care anyway. I don't, Byakuya said, flatly, regardless, this doesn't change your fate. You cannot hope to beat me. Try me, Captain. Renji shouted, sending his bone whip at his captain, who dodged, with a flash step. Byakuya figured that he could attack, but Renji redirected his attack, and the head of Hihio Zabumaru crashed into the young captain, knocking him into a wall. Byakuya tried to recover, but another attack was headed his way, with intense speed. Enough. Scatter, Senbenzakura. His Zanpakuto dissolved into hundreds of thin, tiny blades, with enough spiritual pressure to completely defend the captain. Byakuya Flash stepped out of the crater on the wall, and reformed his sword. Interesting, he said, your Bankai is more potent than I ever could have imagined. Regardless, I will not allow you to pass. That is no longer up to you, Captain. Renji roared, sending another attack Byakuya's way. Byakuya rose his hand, and pointed it at rushing whip. Heido number 33, Sokatsui, he said, calmly. A blue flame exploded from his palm, threatening to engulf Renji, if he had not covered himself with Hihio Zabumaru. You aren't going to beat me with that, he shouted, before the feeling that his right arm had just fallen off overtook his nerves. He looked at the shards of swords, ripping through his chest, slightly underneath his right collarbone, and back behind him, where Byakuya stood, emotionless. You're inexperienced. You should have known that I was trying to throw off your offensive rhythm. Renji gnashed his teeth, and threw another attack out. Bakudo number 61, Rikujikoro. 6 beams of light trapped Renji, preventing him from moving. I admire your courage, but I'm afraid I must end this right now. Bankai. Dropping the blade, which sunk into the ground, bring a rise to countless larger blades. Renji stood, completely shocked on how this was going to end. Scatter, Senbon Sakura Kageyoshi. The blades broke down into shrapnel, and crashed into Renji, destroying his bankai. He stood, motionless. Then he felt his skin peel off. With a heavy, and wet thud, Renji crashed into the ground, bleeding profusely. Byakuya walked in front of him. Did you actually think, with the separation between our skill and power, that you could beat me? Did you ever think you could ever save Rukia? Renji shut his eyes. Your bankai has disappeared. This is a sign that you are going to die very soon. It's a shame, because if you weren't such a hot-blooded idiot, you had the potential to be a good captain one day. Renji tried to move. I can't let it end like this, he thought. He wasn't going to let Rukia down. He was going to save her. He wasn't going to allow her to leave him again. Never again. Pushing himself off the ground, shocking Byakuya in the process, Renji grabbed his fragmented Zanpakuto, and glared at his captain. I did believe, and I am going to save Rukia, he roared, stabbing his blade into Byakuya's chest. The captain retaliated with a slash of his own, cutting Renji's left arm open. DDMN it, he said, falling to the ground once more. Zabumaru shattered. Byakuya looked at his vice-captain. It seems that your Fong did reach me. Song rations Renji, he said, taking off his scarf, and leaving it on Renji's body. I am proud to call myself your captain. Chapter 18, Molten Universe. A trio, consisting of Yuryu, Sato, and Ganju sat in a jail cell, something the trio has been doing for the last 3 days, quietly. Other than a quick comment, the jail cell was still. Uncomfortably still. Until their wall exploded, via a charging Zaraki. Oi, are these who we are looking for? Kenpachi asked, wiping the rubble off of his shoulders. Poking her head over his left shoulder, Oriheim looked at the shocked, yet very quiet prisoners, and nodded vigorously. Zaraki grinned. All right. You 3 are coming with us, he said. The 3 complied. I wonder if Renji died, Ichigo asked, sensing his failing presence. He chuckled, expecting it to happen, before hopping to another rooftop. He then looked up at the massive halberd that was going to be used to execute Rukia. A rather flashy way to kill such a little girl, he said, whatever. I'm done with this sheet, after today. Renji. Rukia screamed, hysterically, where? Please don't do this to me. Not now. What's wrong, Rukia-chan? Captain Ikamaru Jin said, smirking, is something breaking your resolve? See Captain Ikamaru. Rukia said, fear shining in her eyes. The captain's smirk grew. I think he's all right. Renji-kun's alive. For now. He'll probably die soon, if no one goes to him. Rukia narrowed her eyes, fighting back the tears that threatened to fall. Unless, you want me to save you, Rukia-chan. The prisoner blinked her large, purple eyes. I can save you, and Renji-kun, and the rest of the folk that tried to get you out of this lil' ol' mess. Do you want me to do that for you? Rukia's body felt light. He's lying to you. He's lying to you was the mantra her thoughts were trying to tell her. But for some reason, that little bit of hope ignored that thought. The members of the execution force stiffened, in nervous apprehension. It would be easy. I am a very powerful man, Rukia-chan. Don't you believe me? Rukia not showing a reaction, but her face failed her. Of course, that would mean that I was taking this proposal seriously, Jin said. Rukia's irises shrank. I wish you a swift, and painless execution. And with that, Jin left a trembling Rukia, resolve shattered. With a shrill screech of frustration, fear, and anger in the background, Jin's smirk evolved into a smile. So Inoue-san, did you find Kurosaki yet? Yuryu asked, following the girl, who was gifted, by Yachiru, permanent residence on Zaraki's right shoulder. Not yet, but I think we're getting close, she answered. He's likely at the Sokayaku Hill. That is where the girl is getting executed, Kenpachi said. Then we're going the wrong way. Yachiru shouted. Kenpachi closed his eyes. We can see it from here. We're going the right way. Any last words, Kuchiki Rukia? Yamamoto said, very stoic, despite the ridiculous amount of chaos that had fallen over the Seriidii. He knew that they did not have the time to waste on an execution, especially one as formal as this. He could have executed her himself, but Central 46 insisted that she should be killed publicly, and via the Sokayaku. I have a last request, sir, she said. Speak. I would like to request all the invaders that have come for me to be allowed to return home. Yamamoto looked at the girl, ardently. Then I shall honor that request. The invaders will be given a full pardon. Rukia's lip curled into a small smile, as 3 small cubes rose from the ground, binding her into a T position. They lifted her to the top of the gallows, positioned right in front of the halberd. Rukia looked straight into it. There is nothing for me to regret, she said, this is for the best. The halberd surged with energy, and a massive flame exploded from it. Byakuya closed his eyes. The flames transformed themselves into an equally massive phoenix, and screeched. Rukia flinched slightly, as her eyes shut. Thank you, she said, thanking those who were important in her heart. Renji, Onisama, Kayandano, Captain Yudatake, Sato Kun, Inoue-san, and Ichigo. Thank you all. I thought they would just have the blade fall on you, or something, Ichigo said, from the gallows, that would have been awesome. This is just corny. Rukia's eyes snapped open, and she turned her head to face him. Ichigo, she shouted, how long were you there? What are you doing here? Get out of here. Ichigo shrugged. The entire time. This was the worst execution ever, by the way. And I would guess that I'm saving your life, he said, smirking, for some reason, you seem against that idea. I have already accepted my fate, just leave. I'm not the best at following distraught girls' orders, so I'm not leaving. Tough luck, my dear. I don't want to see you get hurt, because of me, she shouted, I already hurt you enough. Ah, you care about me, Ichigo said, with heavy sarcasm, hands placed over his chest, I'm touched. He reached out, and grabbed Rukia by her hair, and ripped her from the controls of the blocks. He then dropped her onto the wood, leaving her to rub her sore scalp. I'm not impressed, he said, holding his right arm out, 2 fingers pointed, as red lightning crackled around them. Ichigo, what are you doing? Rukia asked. Ichigo grinned. What's it look like? This is a Zero, you see. The phoenix was penetrated by the red beam, and the flames dissipated.